everyone, so welcome to my channel. So I don't think I've properly introduced myself on this channel, so I thought I'd do that right now. Hey guys, my name is Sanat and I am a second year or level 2 nursing student at McMaster University. So I know that during this time of year, grade 12 students are stressing out, trying to figure out where to apply, and if you decide on nursing and you pick McMaster as one of the places you want to apply to, you realize that there's this thing called CASPer, the CASPer test that you have to take to fully complete your admission process. So if you're like me and you didn't really know how to prepare for this test, then hopefully you find this video helpful, because I'm going to go through all of my tips on how to study for this test, even though people say that you can't really study for it. In my opinion, you can, and there's no harm in trying to study for it. So yeah, I'm going to go through everything I did to prepare and to pass my CASPer test, and hopefully you guys find it useful. So the first thing I want to talk about is, what is CASPer? The CASPer test is a 90-minute test that you do online that pretty much assesses your personal characteristics to see if you would be fit to be a nurse beyond just your academics. So on the CASPer test, there are 12 scenarios. 10 or 11 of them are video prompts, and 1 to 2 of them are word prompts. The videos are approximately 45 seconds, and the word prompts, if I remember correctly, are 30 seconds. They give you 30 seconds to read it. There are 3 questions per each scenario, and you have a 5-minute time limit. So you get approximately 1 minute and 40 seconds for each question. Each question is graded by a different person, just to avoid any biases and to make grading as fair as possible. Each question is also graded on a scale of 1 to 9, with 1 being unsatisfactory and 9 being superb. The questions asked are non-nursing or non-health related questions. You might get a scenario in the hospital, like I got one in the hospital, but the questions aren't going to ask you like, how do you treat the patient? It's going to ask you more ethical related kind of questions, just to see if you're a good person and you know how to critically think for the most part. Finally, the CASPer accounts for 20% of your overall consideration for the program. 80% of it is your academics, so it's lower than you might think. Okay, so the way that I prepared for CASPer was by doing as many sample scenarios as I could. I'll put as many resources as I can find in the description box. Some of the ones that I found really helpful were, well, 1, the CASPer official website, 2, the BEMO website. They also have a YouTube channel, which was also really helpful. And I also read a ton of Wyconic forums from nursing students about their experiences on CASPer. So that kind of helped. Okay, so the first step, obviously, is to go to the official CASPer website and sign up. Pick a date, pick a time for your CASPer test. If you want to get it over with, pick an earlier time, but if you're like me and you want more time to prepare, then you pick a later time. I think I did mine like the end of January 2019. Yeah, 2019, yeah. Okay, so now let's get straight into how I studied, or what kind of questions appear on the CASPer test. So there are 4 categories of scenarios that you may potentially find on the CASPer test. The first would be witnessing somebody doing something wrong, for example, bullying. The second would be situations involving the compromising of integrity or ethics, for example, inappropriate school or work behavior. The third would be disagreement or uncooperation, for example, group work. And the last would be personal questions. So just asking you about your opinions or your experiences on a certain topic. So the first 3 categories will likely appear as a video prompt, and the personal question will likely appear as a word prompt. At least in my experience, that's how it appeared. The video prompts can't be paused, they can't be rewinded, they can't be fast forwarded. So you have to be fully attentive while you're watching the video and maybe even take jot notes, as I did. So these are the 3 things that you should be paying attention to while you're watching the video. So number 1, what problem is being demonstrated? 2, what are the different point of views? 3, how will the issue affect others? So now let's get into the format of answering the questions. Okay, so on these types of tests, you have to train the way that you respond. So the following is like the holy grail formula. Okay, step 1 is to not jump into any conclusions. Okay, so how I would say this is, first, I will remain objective, non-judgmental, non-confrontational, and not jump into any premature conclusions or assumptions. So I would literally start every sentence or every question with that sentence, and I would just repeat. The second step is to list all the possible scenarios, the good, the bad, even if they seem unrealistic. So when you're listing the possible scenarios, the phrases or the sentence starters that you should use would be, at first glance, it appears, or however, it may be, ... it is also possible that, ... stuff like that. Okay, the third step is to explain what you would do in each possible scenario. So before you answer this question, the first thing that you should say is, I would approach my friend / colleague / classmate in a non-confrontational manner. I would describe to them what I believe to be occurring and explain to them my concerns. ... Then there are 2 ways that you can continue this sentence based on the response that you get from the other person. Did the other person know that what they were doing was wrong? So if they didn't know that what they were doing was wrong, you could educate them and encourage them to uphold higher standards in the school place or in the workplace. But if they did know that what they were doing was wrong, but they did it anyways, then you would do something a bit different. Well, first, does it go against any kind of policy? Like if it's in the workplace, does it go against store policy, for example? If it does, then, and you're an employee, then it's your duty as the employee to report your colleague. Otherwise, you are equally in the wrong. However, if it doesn't go against any kind of policy, then what you should do is, again, encourage them to uphold higher standards. And the way that you would say this, or the way that you would phrase this, would be, if ... then I ... But if ... then I ... It's like, yeah, it's pretty straightforward. Once you get comfortable with the format, it'll be easy to answer these questions because it's not hard. The questions aren't hard per se. It's just the way that you respond and the way that you format your answers that will either get you the points or that will not get you the points, So the fourth step is for the do you agree or do you disagree kind of questions. So for this question, you never want to fully agree or disagree because you don't know the full story and you don't want to seem judgmental and you want to stay objective. For example, let's take the group work scenario. Like, let's say there's a group of people, they have to work on this project and there's one member that's not contributing like the other members, and let's say in this scenario the other members decided to kick this individual out of the group. If the question was, do you agree with the other group members, I would say something along the lines of, I can understand the frustration of these other group members because they are putting in a lot of effort and they feel that this effort is not being reciprocated by this other individual. However, I would encourage these members to go speak with the other individual privately to understand if the other person has any other commitments outside of school, if there are any family problems, things of that sort. And then once they have a better understanding of the other person's point of view, then can they make a decision whether to, keep them in the group and maybe find a way to compromise, or maybe kick the person out of the group if there is no reason for that person to be slacking off as they have been. Never make a solid decision. Always weigh your options, always describe your thinking process, and always think, what if this person is going through something else? What if there's a side of the story that we don't know, kind of thing. So that's what the graders are looking for in your response is, are you able to remain objective? Are you able to think critically? Or are you just judgmental and you don't give people, what's the saying? The benefit of the doubt. Yeah. Some important takeaways from some of the tips that I've shared with you guys would be, number one, there is no right or wrong answer. So again, what these graders are looking for is your thinking process, and if you're able to provide different rationale or maybe reasons for why this person or these group of people might be behaving a certain way, instead of just coming to a definitive conclusion without ever considering other, possibilities. The second important takeaway is that the questions never reveal the full story, or the prompts never reveal the full story. And this is done intentionally. The prompts are left to your interpretation. So my last advice, or my last important takeaway, would be to think out loud. So again, I've been saying this a million times, but again, it's about your thinking process. And even if you don't know what to say, because you have such a time constraint, you should just aim to have something down, at least for the graders to give you a score based off of, and as long as you mention some of the key phrases and sentences and maintain the format that I've been explaining, you should be good. For slow typers, my advice to you is to practice your speed. There are a lot of online typing speed tests that you can use to practice. Also, practice responding to the sample scenario questions with a stopwatch, just to get the feel of the actual test. Once you complete the CASPer test, you don't get your results back, so you won't know how you performed. It's just they give you the offer of admission, or they give you a rejection letter. So that's kind of how you know if you did, okay or not. For me, I got my offer letter the second week of May. So how did I feel after taking the test? I felt really nervous going into it, and when I finished, I still didn't feel the best. The questions weren't so hard. It's just, I just didn't know how I did. When you take a test and you just have absolutely no idea how you performed? It's kind of like that. There's no right or wrong answer, but it wasn't hard. I was kind of relieved with how it was very similar to the practice questions and the sample scenarios, so I felt like I was really prepared for it.